Welcome to a meeting of Game Pass Anonymous. My name is Ren Reynolds, and I'm a gamer. This is a podcast where we have in-depth discussion of games currently on Xbox Live Game Pass. And this week we finished Batman Arkham Asylum. Would anyone else care to share?
I'm the Law Morris, and I'm a gamer. I guess we can get into.
I'm the Law Morris.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Dracos559, and I'm also a gamer.
Hi, Dracos.
Hi, Dracos559.
So, Batman.
Arkham Asylum. It's a game. It's certainly a game. I did enjoy it. But let's catch up where we left off. So
Previously on.
Last week we left Batman. He had just gotten into the Arkham Mansion and found out the Joker had captured Dr. Young, but he didn't have the formula yet.
All right.
Then after that, Batman fights his way through the mansion looking for Dr. Young and the formula. He finds Cash and the formula, but not Dr. Young. He has another encounter with Scarecrow, and then he ends up saving Dr. Young from Zsasz. Dr. Young ends up getting killed by a bomb, and Harley Quinn shows up and takes the warden hostage. And then after that, Batman gets out of the mansion and goes after Harley and the warden. And you guys feel free to jump in because you guys are played. Actually, here we go. No, actually, I found it.
You should speak into your mic.
Yeah. So then they head to the penitentiary.
Yeah.
And they then at the penitentiary, Harley Quinn releases Poison Ivy from her cell, and then is imprisoned by Batman. And Harley Quinn accidentally reveals that Joker has a Titan production facility in the Arkham Botanical Gardens. Batman travels there and learns that the Titan is created by genetically modified plants. He enlists Ivy's help to create an antidote and learns that it can only be made from spores found exclusively in Killer Croc's lair in a sewer.
Convenient.
En route to Croc, Batman is again attacked by Scarecrow and overcomes several doses of fear toxin. Meanwhile, Joker injects Ivy with Titan, enhancing her powers. Ivy begins ravaging Arkham Island with giant mutant plants. Pursued by Batman into Croc's lair, Scarecrow is attacked by Croc and dragged underwater. Batman recovers the necessary spores and subdues Croc before returning to the Batcave, but can only synthesize one dose of the antidote before Ivy's plants breach the cave and destroy his equipment. Batman returns to the Botanical Gardens and defeats Ivy, halting the rampaging plants. The Joker announces that the preparations for his party are finally complete, and Batman travels to the Asylum's visitor center, where Joker's plotting henchmen welcome him. The Joker reveals that he has captured Gordon and tries to shoot him with a Titan-filled dart. Batman leaps to Gordon's defense and is shot instead. Batman attempts to resist the change, and an upset Joker takes an overdose of Titan, mutating into a massive monster. In a makeshift arena on the building's roof, the Joker challenges Batman to a fight. As Titan-induced monsters in front of news helicopters, Batman refuses to transform and uses the antidote on himself and defeats the Titan-affected Joker and his henchmen, knocking his nemesis unconscious with an explosive gel-enhanced punch. In the aftermath, those affected by the Titan begin to revert to normal, including the Joker, who is restrained and taken into custody as police officers retake the asylum. Batman overhears a call about a crime led by Two-Face in progress and flies back to Gotham City in the Batwing. In a post-credits scene, a crate of Titan formula is shown to be floating in the ocean near the asylum when a hand surfaces and grabs it.
Bane's hand.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. So that is what happens in the rest of the game.
Back half.
Yes. So what would you guys say was your favorite part of this game?
I'm actually gonna let Ethan go first because I'm gonna double and I'm gonna do mine back to back.
Okay. I would definitely say my favorite part of the second half was kind of just the Poison Ivy subplot. I like how they brought her into the story as like she doesn't really care what Joker's up to. She's just kind of like doing her own thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Croc's doing too, which I also liked. I kind of like how a lot of the henchmen, the bad guys, are doing that. But personally, my favorite that I played, I will admit that I did not finish the game because I was playing on hard and it was too fucking hard. I was just getting too frustrated, and then I also had a save issue where the game didn't save after I had beaten boss, which was pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. The two Titans, and that was a tough fight.
Yeah, no, not as hard as Bane though, honestly.
Yeah, I found that too, weirdly enough.
Yeah, but yeah, so like but my favorite parts were the Scarecrow parts. I thought that those were so cool. Like I don't know. I thought they were fun, and
Okay.
like I thought they were decently challenging but not overly challenging, and they were just cool.
Yeah, actually, so in progress, I thought that the Scarecrow parts were a little bit frustrating, but thinking back on it, it's like they never really took me too long. It was never like I absolutely don't know what to do here. It was like this is like I get it. Like maybe I'll fail
It's
at a
kind
couple
of a
of times.
puzzle. It's like puzzly, but
Right.
it's puzzly, but also fighty.
And platforming.
Kind of at times. Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it was just a cool section. They were cool sections, and I liked that there was also multiple of them.
Yeah. My favorite part, and I'm actually going to follow up with my least favorite part because they're very closely, they walk hand in hand. Ethan, I totally agree that like Ivy was awesome. She was like such a really, really great character. And for like, I thought that because of basically the exact reasons you mentioned, that like she was totally independent. She wasn't on anyone's side. She was doing her own thing, and she wasn't afraid of Batman or Joker because she saw herself as their equal. And I thought that was really, really cool.
And it's also important to remember that Poison Ivy always sees herself as trying to help Gotham. That's a big part of her character.
Yeah. And Ben, I also noticed that like it stood out to me most as like Ivy and Croc as like they really don't care. They're just doing their own thing. And Croc kind of seemed like he just wanted to stay out of it, and he was good with just chilling in his lair. But like when there was an opportunity to escape, of course he's going to take it.
And when there's an opportunity to kill Batman, of course he's going to try.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Ethan, I definitely agreed with you about Ivy being like a really cool subplot and really like a really cool character.
Yeah. What did you guys? Well, and so I feel like in the other games too, they're some of the other people who they introduce are more like that, and like Freeze you don't really see in this game except for you see like hints of him, and like I mean you see the cell. You see the cell. Yeah. And like, but
which
there's not.
Was a really cool just nod to that.
I can't. He's in one of the other games though.
I think he's in. I think he's actually in City and Origins.
Okay.
But I don't think he's in Night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was in the second because I think that's as far as I played and I remember fighting him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's like and that's one thing that I think also kind of started to frustrate me about those games is that they have so many cool villains that they could explore further, but then they just chose to make Joker the main villain in all of the games.
Yeah, and even after Joker died, they continued to make Joker.
Yeah.
Like the big bad.
Yeah.
And I felt like
that was I think one of the things that started to frustrate me about those games is it's like, yes, the rivalry between Batman and Joker is like thought of as one of the main rivalries, but there are so many different villains in Batman that you could use,
and like good stories and good characters.
Yeah, which they definitely take plenty of time to tell you if you want to listen to all of the like tapes and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's tons of backstory about a lot of the villains in this game, and I don't know. So I feel like that's something that definitely frustrated me about the series.
Ethan, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you go with what you were going to ask because I was going to move on to my next question.
Well, I was just going to mention, like, last week, Ethan mentioned about like the teeth, being kind of a lame collectible. Audio logs are something that was kind of rampant back then, as far as like a way to build out a universe. And I was just going to ask Ethan, like, how many of the audio logs did you find, and did you find yourself listening to them?
I would say I've kind of always been a fan of audio logs, assuming they're in the format that they were in this, of you pick them up, they just start auto playing.
Yeah, you don't have to like pause
else
and listen to them.
Yeah,
although it was inconsistent, or at least for me, it was inconsistent. Like some of them would stop playing if I would leave a room, and like they wouldn't like they wouldn't consistently keep playing when I would pick them up. Like it would go into the menu, and then I would close the menu, and some of the time it would keep them playing, some of the time it would stop them playing right when I left the menu. Other times, like if I left a room, it would stop it playing, and I was like, this is kind of frustrating me.
Yeah. See, I noticed that like once or twice, but I couldn't tell if it was just like, oh, I accidentally hit the stop play button trying to leave the menu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just didn't bother to check. I kind of understand why they would stop when you leave the room, though, because I'm glad I never had a situation where they were like playing over, I need to hear the combat of what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, that could be that. Yeah, I could see that being an issue.
I would have liked if there had been
found them in like teeny tiny little rooms, and so it's like, I guess I just have to stand here in this room and listen to this, or stop, and like kind of stop playing for a second.
Yeah, I would have liked if there had been a solution to like, pause it if the game could like intelligently pause and play it during like downtime until the audio log was over. But this game obviously had a lot of there are a lot of obvious RAM management strategies in the game. So like all the vents that separate areas very obviously are like, we couldn't load this whole area into the RAM, so here's a vent that functions as a way for us to load the next area in.
Be a loading screen.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, obviously I would like there to be some intelligent way of pausing and playing the audio logs, but seeing as how little RAM this game was originally designed to run on, and all of the RAM management like tweaks that are in the game, it doesn't surprise me that there isn't a solution to that.
Yeah.
But Ethan, I did have a similar experience to you, as like sometimes they would pause, sometimes they wouldn't, and it's like it did get frustrating because they were really good audio logs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I haven't enjoyed audio logs this much since I played BioShock 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your least favorite part of the second half of the game?
Can I jump in?
You said you wanted to go first, so
Poison Ivy, because she was so awesome as a character. And I mentioned it briefly last week, but you wanted me to hold on to it. I'm not one typically to complain about something being like a character being over sexualized in a video game. But I feel like there was there weren't a whole lot of women in this game, which is like, it's fine. I mean, in the setting, it makes sense. And it's kind of part of Harley Quinn's character, so I don't really mind that. But like, Ivy was just so hyper sexualized that it's like, I just feel like that didn't really need to be done to that character. She was already so awesome as she was that
Google Poison Ivy comics.
I mean, I know that it's like a part of her character, but is it that explicit in the comics? Because I mean,
I guess I didn't see all of the cutscenes with her because obviously I didn't finish the game, but like, I mean, in the comics, she is definitely like,
I mean, she's definitely like in some, I don't know. I'm seeing like 50-50 here. She's like in leotards.
All right. This one that I just found is like insane. I am sending it. I'm going to send it to you in Discord.
I'm looking at comics and she's like almost always in a leotard. Whereas in this game, she's like walking around in like very cheeky, lacy panties that are like falling apart and like a silk shirt that she could like, I'm certain a cool breeze and she would be nipping right through that shirt. And it's like, it just felt very much, I don't know, like a product of its time. And I'm really usually not one to complain about that sort of thing. I just felt like she was such an amazing character that that didn't need to be done to her. Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, she's really hot, so I don't mind.
Like, I mean, that's clearly what they based her on. Yep. The second one that I just sent you is what they based her on, and that's ripped out of a comic. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not super up on Batman and whatever, but like as someone who isn't super knowledgeable about Batman, it just is something that kind of stood out as like, here's this character and she was really awesome. I don't see why they needed to make it this explicit.
But think about even Uma as Poison Ivy.
So yeah, I was just Googling that, Poison Ivy, Uma Thurman. Ethan, do you have thoughts on what I'm saying here? Because you liked Ivy.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really have strong thoughts on it. I mean, I feel like it was never a situation where I'm like, okay, she's just like posing in a sexual manner or anything like that. It's just, okay, she's not wearing much in the way of clothes, which like kind of fits with her character design of like, she's, natural, in tune with the plants and stuff. So I don't know, it's just never something that really registered with me. And
yeah, that's kind of, I guess, and like, I mean, I see what you're talking about with how, but it's like, I mean, if you're gonna have a problem with her doing it, then you should have a problem with Harley Quinn as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, like not being a giant Batman fan, I don't know Poison Ivy's character very well, and I admittedly know more about Harley Quinn than I do about Poison Ivy, and so like, I guess it was just like I could look at it and be like, yeah, that is a part of Harley's character. Whereas that's not something I know about Poison Ivy.
In reality, it's probably more of a thing of like, why are all female villains in Batman so hypersexualized? That's really a better question, and that is a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's because that I'm sure that when they were writing them, that they weren't writing them in 2020 initially, and so
yeah. I mean, and it's not something that I'm usually like, it's not something I typically have a problem with. Like if an artist wants to create something how they want to, I'm kind of all for that. But I just felt like She was such a strong character that she was standing out to me in that way, in like her character and her motivations. That it almost, with as severe as I felt like they pushed the extremity of her costume design, it just felt distracting from the really, really awesome character that she was.
Well, no, and that's exactly, it's honestly with all Batman villains, like why do they need to just be so hypersexualized? Why can't they just be?
Yeah, we need a not sexy penguin.
Well, I guess the female Batman villains,
I
like
knew what
Catwoman,
you meant.
like Catwoman too. It's like, I mean, and in general with like that, I mean. And
it's a part of every character.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a part of comic book. It's kind of like a comic book thing at this point. But I do think that it's not. It's becoming less of a thing.
Yeah.
But like even the Wonder Woman from 2016 that movie came out.
I don't know.
Like Gal Gadot's, when she's like actually in the like
costume,
skirt and stuff, it's fairly. I mean, it's not super sexualized, but it's fairly sexualized, I would say.
I wouldn't say it's any more sexualized than like Thor or like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I would say there's definitely parity between the genders on that, but that's not really what this podcast is about. I don't want to like take us down that road. But she was a really great character. I really enjoyed Ivy.
Yeah.
So, Ethan, is there something that stood out to you as like the worst?
That one, I've been trying to decide between two worsts, which is probably not good.
Well,
the
you
second
can share
half
both.
Of the game, let me down. I'd say the first was the Killer Croc lair.
Oh, okay.
I never found it hard, but it was a aspect of the fight, if you want to call it that I remember. Like back when I first played this, I also got stuck and confused on it. And this time going around, I had to look up like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. In that when he first like pops out of the water, like you start the like navigating his maze with, like, okay, don't make too much noise or Killer Croc will find you. And then like Killer Croc pops up in front of you anyway. And it's like, oh, apparently I was making too much noise.
I triggered that, apparently.
And I ran back to the starting area like 7 times before being like, okay, there's gotta be something I'm missing. Oh, I'm supposed to throw a batarang as collar. I'm glad the game made that obvious.
I did that
Well,
too.
I mean, that's the cutscene when he picks up Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Hits him with the batarang. Yeah. And that's supposed to be your hint that you're supposed to do it. But I see what you're saying. I remember the first time I played it, that being an issue for me. It's not very obvious there what you need to do.
Yeah.
And like, then I did that twice as well, Ethan. So I think that like 2 out of 3, that's not great numbers for the game.
Yeah. Could have been better game design. And I feel like kind of in a similar vein, the Joker fight, I also died a few times before I realized, I have to wait till he turns around and then use this upgraded bat claw that I barely used to pull him down. And I was like, it had to be spelled out in like one of those in-game hints to tell me.
Yeah, I felt like the upgraded bat claw and the line launcher are two gadgets that they really leaned too heavily on in the back half of the game, because it was like, I felt like just the solution to every other puzzle was line launcher. And it's like, why? Like, I'm using this thing
That's
too
where
much.
City gets interesting, because City, there's more like combinations that you have to do, where it's like you have to use the line launcher and the fucking bat claw or something like that and shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I feel like almost you can kind of attribute both of those boss fight difficulties to the fact that, like, especially in the first half of the game, they really rely heavily on here's a boss, hit it with a batarang and dodge out of the way when it charges.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
yeah, so they leaned on that really hard. Poison Ivy for me was like easy enough to figure out because it was similar to like similar bosses in like Zelda, I feel like.
Yeah, Poison Ivy
But
was a
then it's
very Zelda-esque boss.
yeah. But then those two bosses especially, it's like, okay, like I don't run out of the way when they're charging. What do I do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did not feel they had set you up to feel like, oh, this is like this other fight, and then it wasn't really like
Yeah.
those other fights. Yeah,
It's
no, I see what you
yes,
mean.
especially with Joker because it's like, oh, the same story. He's injecting himself with Titan, so he's big and strong now.
And I was
But then the fight
expecting,
goes completely different.
yeah,
Yeah.
I that fight just felt like a very underwhelming climax to the game. Like that was, I
Yeah.
felt like one of the worst one of the worst final boss fights they could have designed for this game.
Yeah.
But what if Batman had gone all Titan on him and fucking you'd gotten to fight as Titan Batman?
That would have been sick.
It would have felt very silly, but I could also see how it's sick. And it would have dealt with, I felt like one of the letdowns of the story is it's like, okay, Batman can just like clench his muscles real hard and resist this mutation.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Well, he resisted it for a while and then he gave himself
The antidote.
The antidote.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Which I mean, if they had just like started with that, that would have made more sense. Or done it earlier. What?
Dr. Young was pretty hot.
Okay.
Not as hot as Poison Ivy.
Well, yeah, that's true. But for just being a doctor,
I guess that's, I mean, who's sexualizing the women in Batman now, Ben?
Yeah, Ben.
I am just saying she was a hot doctor.
Jesus.
Note that I made.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Ethan, that the Joker fight was pretty lame.
Yeah. Because it's like you barely even fought Joker. It's more like you're fighting waves of minions.
Yeah.
And then you get to like pull
You
him down, smack
beat
him
him
around
up.
a bit, and then run away.
Yep, absolutely. And that was the whole fight, and that was like a pretty big disappointment, especially after they've been conditioning you to fight this Titan style mutant since Bane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, I'm really glad I didn't try and do that Joker fight because that Joker fight would have been a bitch.
Yeah, because
no,
it was
even,
multiple guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, even after figuring out how to do it, it took me multiple tries on normal.
Well, I mean, yeah, like the fucking anything where there's like a fuckload of dudes was just so hard. Like that room where there was 10 guys that I had to fight in hand to hand. It was so fucking hard. Eventually, the time that I beat it, I somehow managed to get the guys to split into like 3 groups of 4 or like like 2 groups of 4 and 1 group of 2 or something like that. And like they wouldn't for some reason they wouldn't group back up, and so I just was like, all right, I just have like 3 miniature fights now. This is actually doable.
Yeah. And that was definitely something I also continued to see, especially in the second half of the game, is the fighting just felt like fighting things the normal proper way felt less consistent than like finding ways to cheese the fights.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like how far Batman would lunge versus just like whiffing on a guy 2 feet in front of him versus like traveling across the map to nail a guy is not clearly explained how that happens. In any fight where the camera's like whipping around and it's like, okay, I'm gonna try and like dodge my way out towards the edge of the ring of guys, and it's like, oh, now the camera's spinning around wildly, so I can't consistently, pick a direction to attack.
And then like somebody comes in and punches you from a direction you weren't expecting or some shit like that, and it's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, no. the combat system just became. That's really the main reason that I quit. Is that the combat system was just too frustrating.
Yeah, just wonky. And yeah, especially the later fights, it felt less like, okay, like I succeeded in this puzzle of like, holy shit, like that fucking was messy as hell, but I guess it worked. It shouldn't have, but it did. Yeah, I remember like especially two moments. There was one stealth area where I pretty much just punched my way through a bunch of guys with guns. And I'm like, there's no way that should have worked, but it did, okay. And then the Joker fight was literally just like run to the edge of the electrified arena, wait for a guy to come up, jump over him, and then knock him into the electric wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it like the difficulty spiked almost like too quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then kind of right at the halfway point.
And then it made you have to basically look for ways to cheat through it.
Yeah, ways to cheese the game.
Yeah.
And so Ethan, last week you talked a lot about like how this really felt like a game for Batman fans. And I hadn't what?
From 2009. It
yes.
really also definitely feels like a game from 2009.
Absolutely. Yep. I hadn't gotten that feeling of like this is really, really like dedicated to Batman until like the Killer Croc, until I was like I felt like it was starting to get to really like hit its stride in that sense. Which is a shame because I feel like in the front half, like by the time they finally hit their stride with all the Batman lore and moving forward in that world and really like figured that out, the gameplay was feeling very tired and I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's why I quit basically.
Yeah.
You
wanted it to be over and you made it over.
Yeah. Well, and it was just one of those things where it was like my day off, and I was like,
not going to beat my head against the wall.
Yeah, playing a game that I'm not enjoying on my day off.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, that's how it went down. But I did play other games that are on Game Pass, including GTA 5. I restarted, so.
Hey.
So any other final thoughts before we come up with ratings?
Let's not play Arkham City for a while.
Yeah, that's definitely wait. I do think that the combat system would probably feel better in that game because
I've heard it's much more polished and varied.
Yeah, but I would not want to play it for a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if it stays on Game Pass long enough for us.
No, I'm sure it will.
All right, so let's throw out some numbers. Patrick, you gave us a 6.5 last week when you were playing through. What are you at this week? Or what would you your final rating?
So while I think that the gameplay got worn out, I think that the back half included so many awesome Batman elements, and really like the back half is where you meet Poison Ivy and where you like learn, like where you really get to experience that subplot, and she was my favorite part of the game. I think that those things outweighed the negatives in the back half, and it bumped it up to a 7 for me.
Makes sense. Ethan?
I guess I'm gonna continue to contradict people and say that just the spike in difficulty, and especially like because that forces you to see all the inconsistencies in the gameplay, made the back half of the game just really frustrating overall. So I'm bumping my score down to a 6.5.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick consistently with a 6.5 because of my frustration with that made me quit the game.
Yep.
basically.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, you would have no justification in raising it if it was so frustrating that it forced you to quit.
yeah,
I can't even finish this game, but I'm increasing the score.
8 out of 10.
yeah. So
It
the
was
average
okay.
let's do some quick maths on this phone.
6.5, 6.5. What, like 6.725?
6 2/3.
6 2/3
is our average rating.
All right. 666. Are we
Yep.
playing Blair Witch next?
Oh shoot!
Now we're playing Fable next. Oh wait, did I spoil it? Was that a spoiler?
Whoops.
It is now.
Yep. So next week we're playing Fable, guys.
Nice. I love Fable.
This is why I actually haven't played before. So I mean, I've heard nothing but good things. So I'm very interested to see if it lives up to that.
Yeah, I've only played it because, as we talked about on our other podcast tonight, I did not ever own an Xbox, and so I'd played it a couple times at other people's houses, but then played the shit out of 2 and 3. So I'm excited to play the first one all the way through and feel or play that story.
It seems like we do the whole like Goldilocks and the Three Bears thing a lot because I played the shit out of Fable, and I'm super excited to do it again.
And yeah, I only played Fable. Capitalism is the answer.
I don't even know what that is.
It's I forget which number it was.
I think it's Fable 2.
Pat.
Real estate
Fable.
is just
Oh yeah.
you play the
where
real
it's
estate game and it ruins the rest of the game.
Yeah, because like the later half is like decide between the option that like keeps money for your eventual defense against this
Oh no, that was
horrible...
Fable 3.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, either save money against a threat far off in the future or take the morally good option. Or option 3, you've built up a real estate empire already and can afford to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another meeting of Game Pass Anonymous. I will see you next week.
Bye.